Hi, I'm Joe Miller. I'm going to talk about the current issue of governing the internet. So, this is kind of a modern issue because the internet's been around for, the last couple decades, and it's only really become super prevalent within the last few, like with smartphones and laptops becoming extremely common. And so, there's been issues with businesses, people putting their information, products, etc. on the internet, their intellectual property, and how do you protect it? Because a lot of people can hack the internet, they can steal your stuff, and it's really hard to regulate when there's millions, well, billions of people using it. So the most common way to do this is piracy, something we as college students and probably most adults at this point have been exposed to. We've either been around it or we've partaken in it because it's so easy nowadays. Also, copyright infringement and plagiarism. When we're writing a paper, everyone tells us to make sure our works cited is great and stuff. And copyright infringement is just using something without permission of the owner. So it's something we all deal with, definitely relevant to everyone in college, and at this point, pretty much every person. There's a study found that 89% of college students admitted to pirating music, and because music, if you're interested in 1,000, 2,000 songs and they're 99 cents each, you're not going to buy them all. And when you have a low risk thing like pirating music nowadays, there's really no reason not to, unless you're just morally completely above that or you have enough money. And since peer-to-peer file sharing has come around, music sales have dropped 47%. So they've almost been cut in half, almost 15 billion to just about 8. And that's really significant. And it's mainly because of pirating, but there's also things like Spotify and Pandora, and really people don't have a reason to just go and buy a CD or buy a song individually when you have streaming services like that. So, since this is a legal issue that is fairly recent, there's a ton of cases because we're still trying to figure this out. So I chose this one, American Broadcasting versus Aereo, because it's 2014 and it went to the Supreme Court, and it's a pretty interesting case because the act they were referencing the court was referencing to make a ruling on the case was the Copyright Act of 1976, which, if you think about it, that's so old for such a modern topic, and technology has changed so much, and situations have changed so much. I think I and many others think that it needs to be updated. It's been amended a few times, but a completely new bill would be helpful. So what this case was Aereo sells the service online that allows people to watch TV on the internet at the same time it's being broadcast over the air. And they have not gotten explicit. They've not gotten this okayed with every channel that they're broadcasting. So all the channels that they are broadcasting brought suit, obviously, for copyright infringement. And so the district court, ruled in favor of Aereo, and then they appealed. The appeals court ruled in favor of Aereo. Then it went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said, Aereo, your argument doesn't work. They were arguing that they were not broadcasting to the public, which was a big clause, like a big deal within the Copyright Act was you cannot broadcast this to the public. They said we're only broadcasting this to the people who are subscribed to us. And the Supreme Court said doesn't matter behind the scenes who this is going to, you're still sending it to multiple people, and so we're going to consider that broadcasting to the public. They reversed and remanded the decision in favor of American Broadcasting. So, another case, very recent, Oracle America versus Google. I actually heard about this when it was going on in 2014. It was in the news. Oracle filed suit against Google, alleging their Android system infringed Oracle's patents and copyrights. So, when looking at this case, the case brief is probably over 100 pages long because this has to do with the code within the Android system. It's very complicated, very technical issue. And to sum it up, at the end, the court decided that the Android's codes, structure, sequence, and organization are entitled to copyright protection because it was very unique. And so they ruled in favor of Oracle on that. Google claimed fair use. The jury was actually hung on that. They could not decide. So they just remanded that defense, and we're going to deal with it later. So, big issues I wanted to address were SOPA and PIPA. I heard about these when they were going around. I know a lot of people our age did because there's actually a lot of internet blackouts with like Wikipedia, Reddit, all kinds of big websites that were protesting it. There were bills passed or in Congress that were attempting to deal with piracy and copyright infringement. They were in 2012 was when this is all going down, and right now they're pretty much dead. We moved on from them, which is gonna make my presentation different from others because I'm not actually addressing a law because there's laws to deal with this, but there's not a big copyright or piracy law that deals with the modern issues. The Copyright Act of 1976 could be considered that, but it's so outdated. I'd rather address how we're currently trying to deal with it because this was a big deal, and this got kind of close to passing a few of these. So SOPA stands for Stop Online Piracy Act. This was in the House of Representatives. They're both similar. I assume they wanted them both to pass, and they're going to come up with like some sort of molded version of the two. So basically, it had a ton of things in it to prevent piracy, but a lot of them raised concerns. There's a provision requiring search engines to remove foreign infringing sites from their catalog, so you couldn't find them ever. So people were concerned about this because if a website was mistakenly deemed foreign infringing or a foreign site that infringes, it can pretty much never be found again because you would not find it on Google, which is how probably 99% of people find sites, which is scary. Also, SOPA has this provision where if you accuse a site of having copyright infringement and it doesn't have it, there's no repercussions for you. You can just accuse whoever you want, and there's not you. So that's obviously a scary issue because that can be abused. You can just accuse, if you're a business, you can accuse your competitors and nothing happens if you're wrong. And if you're right, the website gets shut down and they really struggle probably. Also, payment services like PayPal can't do business with foreign sites that are found to be dedicated to infringing activities. So once again, if it's a case of mistaken identity, PayPal can't deal with them. Their funding's cut off. Pretty much would cripple a business if it's online. Also, they can block specific websites using DNS blocking. I don't know the technical specifics of that, but I will say that the article I read, the article I read about it said that this is how China blocks citizens from certain websites. So take from that what you will. Okay, so PIPA was the version in Senate. It's the Protect IP Act. It's pretty similar, but there's a few differences. There's greater court intervention in it, which is probably good because the court would hopefully make things more fair. And there's an anti-circumvention provision, so you can't reference or link a website that infringes on your website. So that's like another clause that can get you caught. So if you link a website that you think is okay and then it ends up being infringed, like a copyright infringing website, you can get in trouble for that, which obviously could lead to some innocent websites getting punished. And both of these had acts to prevent basically rogue websites from any website that's considered a rogue website that has copyright infringement or piracy or whatever is completely shut down, which is scary. So there's a ton of criticism about these, so I summed them up into bullet points, and we'll go over those. So the main concerns are that these acts are going to stifle free speech on the internet because people can abuse them. There's no real repercussions, and the definition of what a rogue website is pretty broad. So innocent websites can get in trouble. There could be a case of mistaken identity, and a lot of people don't think it's worth the risk because the internet's such a wealth of knowledge, possibly our greatest invention ever. Why would we take an act that has all these questionable provisions in it? It's really going to need to be a perfect act if it's going to pass because we don't want to limit one of our best resources. Open is an act that is proposed by the protesters, which I thought really strengthened their argument because they not only said don't do this, they gave a proposal for what they could do, which is very you got to do that when you're arguing. These acts, like businesses, it could ruin competition between them because a business could just start claiming that they're copyright infringing the other one is, and if anything is found on that website, they're shut down. So it's potential for sabotage, all kinds of things. Small sites won't have resources to defend themselves, and also if a small site goes out of business, that business is probably done. Rather, a large corporation might be able to recover. And also they can cut off funding sources for their foreign competitors. So there's a lot of scary things about it. A website that has so much good information can be banned for one issue. Like I said, there's a huge blackout from Wikipedia, Reddit, and all kinds of websites because they're scared that this is gonna really infringe on what the internet is, the free speech, and like the great resource that it is. And even though they may not suffer because they don't infringe, they spoke up because this isn't what we want. So in conclusion, this is an issue that really hasn't been addressed as a permanent fix. The Copyright Act of 1976 really isn't good enough. The SOPA and PIPA were the most recent attempts. They kind of were shot down from protesters. Governing the internet is so complicated, as the Oracle Google case showed me, but it's super important because we all deal with it, and it's kind of the future. We're all going to be dealing with technology, so we need to be very careful. It's going to take pretty much a perfectly written bill if Congress wants to address this. Otherwise, there's going to be a huge backlash, as there was with SOPA and PIPA. And so it also just needs to be perfect because we don't want to screw this up because the internet is such a helpful resource. And so that is all. Here are my works cited. Thank you for watching.